They made gods, God of victory, God of, because they couldn't explain anything was greater than that. These were like gods they hadn't.
I project a beam of light at the wall. You see the light on the wall.
God himself is indescribable.
But the wall is not the source of the light.
All these different names which are called God in the Torah, but deeper in the prophets, and the words of the rabbis in the Talmud, like we call God Chacham. God is the wise one, the kind one, the merciful one.
It comes in from somewhere else.
Okay, and similar things. Because God himself, because God's reality is so real that we can't possibly describe it.
Perfect harmony with all of Thra, forgotten by the world above. For uncounted millennia, all of Thra existed in perfect balance. But then, new beings came, not of Thra.
Listen, it's hard for us even to describe aspects of God.
Oswald Spengler, it was, who said, "Man is a beast of prey, and in all the great animal species, when you compare the beasts of prey with the herbivorous, vegetable-eating animals."
Jews against Rome.
What made you pick it up?
Well, we lost that one. I think we have to win the next one.
The ones that are most powerful in their intelligence.
Against democratic countries, First Amendment type of...
That's already happening?
That's already happening. You're seeing the polarization in countries that allow for the First Amendment and protect it, which is great. And I know it's difficult to hear, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it. And quickly before it's too late.
What do you mean?
I mean that
tend to be the beast of prey.
Aspects of that. For instance, you learned in university, so I learned like Plato and these guys. They go berserk. What is beauty? What is love? What is power? What is this? Ooh, these things are absolutes. These are absolutes. They made gods.
Already Heraclitus declared, "War is the creator of all great things."
Warrior classes, to have leadership be derived from people who have had the most success as a warrior, to have myths built around their religion, that success in war, violent acclaim in war, is your gateway to heaven or whatever afterlife is viewed as most desirable.
Out of the house of bondage. And when you move on then from Deuteronomy, from which these quotes are taken, to the great war book of Joshua. You know the story of the taking of Jericho. And then they utterly destroyed all in the city, both men and women, young and old, oxen, sheep, and asses, with the edge of the sword. And the next city, Ai. And Israel smote them until there was left none that survived or escaped. And so Joshua defeated the whole land, the hill country and the Negeb, and the lowland, and the slopes, and all their kings. He left none remaining, but utterly destroyed all that breathes, as the Lord God of Israel commanded. Then there's that rather horrible story at the end of Judges 21, of how the tribe of Benjamin got their wives. And the earliest song in the Old Testament, the earliest text in the Old Testament, Deborah's song, is a war song. Then in the 9th and 8th centuries, we have those horrendous bloodbaths of Elijah and Elisha in the last books of Kings, of First Kings and first books of Second Kings. And then there's the reforms of Joshua, of Josiah in 2 Kings 22 to 23. But above all this, then, there soars that beautiful ideal of an ultimate peace. This is an idea that plays now from this time of Isaiah onward through all of the higher culture war mythologies. That we are really not creating a world that is going to be constantly in war of this kind. There has come a new tenderness, a new gentleness into the thinking of the world. And there's that beautiful line from Isaiah 65 that's so often quoted: "The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and dust shall be the serpent's food. They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, says the Lord." However, a little further along in Isaiah, when one sees what the ideal of peace to come actually is, it is not altogether the wolf with the lamb. The foreigners shall build up your walls, and their kings shall minister to you. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I have had mercy on thee. Thy gates also shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day or night, that men may bring unto thee the wealth of nations, and their kings led captive. For that nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. The glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine, and the box tree together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will make the place of my feet glorious. And the sons of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and all they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet, and they shall call thee the city of Yahweh, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel.
This is a consistent finding lots and lots of these cultures. Nomadic pastoralists are the ones who came up with warfare on a certain level and warrior classes.
And so we find this problem facing, as I say, the mind which reacts against this monstrous situation and has to be, as it were, converted to it once it becomes really aware of it.
Thing to say, but like when I'm trying to make arguments in favor, for Israel, I realize I'm talking through a wall of dead children. Like that's what people are seeing. So when I'm like, yo, there's 1.5 civilians, they're just seeing carnage.
But that's the emotional blackmail.
I mean, fair enough, but like again, and that's nice, but like again, I'm hearing that through a wall of screaming children. It's like I think it's a harder argument than we're understanding.
Your breakfast at Mar-a-Lago 2 days ago. 2 days ago. Let's take a look at some of this video. Okay.
And so I would say that two great mythologies emerge. One in which this monstrous condition or precondition of life is affirmed, and the other in which it is denied.
The majority of Americans today have an unfavorable view of Israel. When you think about it, the masters of the universe are Jews. You know, we've got Altman and AI, we got Zuckerberg, we got Sergey Brin. It's us. Amelia, we got to get our digital sneakers on.
And when it is denied, life itself is rejected.
In psychology, if you treat someone kindly, but they have low cognitive ability and poor character, they may interpret your kindness as submission or flattery. In their perception, when you speak to them nicely, they assume you're easy to manipulate. Your respect gives them an unwarranted sense of superiority.
The mythologies of peace are mythologies of world renunciation.
These kinds of people are highly driven by their animal instincts and may hold grudges over trivial matters. If you realize someone like this is around you, it's best to distance yourself as early as possible.
Schopenhauer stated the response of the sensitive mind when he said, life is something that should not have been. And there are many who feel this way.
Don't let your kindness without boundaries awaken the evil in their nature.
There is a third order of thinking, namely, that the situation can be improved, that the pain, that the agony can be lessened. One way is not to visit slaughterhouses.
And I was talking to Arabs, they were behind the fence, and their fingers were holding onto the fence like this, and they said to me,
when human rights violations cost El Salvador its American military aid for a period after 1977, the Israelis were on hand to fill the breach.
Yeah, say a population that is not that does not lack its own regime, for example, whether it be anti-riot or tear gas, whatever, we haven't sold it.
But in Guatemala, across the border from El Salvador, Israel has been heavily involved in the business of internal security. Over the past decade, while U.S.-Guatemalan relations have been strained by flagrant human rights abuses, Israel has remained a steady friend.
We have about 30 black African countries and was involved in a lot of things. And as it turned out, this was all financed by the US government.
Frontline has learned that under a top-secret program codenamed KK Mountain, the CIA funded Israeli covert activities in Africa with a budget of up to $20 million a year. One product of this relationship was the man who would become the dictator of Uganda, Idi Amin. He received military training in Israel.
However, the Uzi would be costly for the Rhodesians to manufacture in large enough quantities due to the costly importation of certain parts for the weapon from Israel, making the overall production of the Uzi as a whole an expensive proposition. Despite sanctions, Israel would continue to trade with Rhodesia, albeit in secret.
Not to see what the situation is that is the precondition of the beautiful cuts that arrive on the table.
In due time, the general was shot down in the street. And now we know, we've only known this since last December, when on the initiative of Congressman Morris Hinchy of New York, all the documents were finally revealed to Congress, that the murderers were then paid off with a very large sum of American cash money supplied by Henry Kissinger, and were helped to conceal the evidence of their crime. And this was the opening, this assassination, this murder, and when you read the transcript of the discussions and the planning and the organizing of it, it's like listening to the John Gotti tapes. It's not like The Sopranos at all. It's a cold-blooded, wet job. It's a hit. It's a whack done by this man, this individual, this person. You realize it's only also the prelude to the assassination of Chilean democracy itself, because within 3 years, tactics like that, repeatedly applied, of sabotage, murder, terror, and assassination, had produced a military coup which asphyxiated democracy in Chile for nearly a quarter of a century. But the Chilean people are back now, and they are instituting inquiries into what happened to them.
You're not describing a literal battle between monsters and unicorns. You're articulating a psychic ecology.
There were 4 tribal members who were picked up by ICE in a community called Little Earth right here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And one of them has been released, but they couldn't locate the other 3. So the council members here, they're all elected officials of the Oglala Sioux tribe.
In the year 586 BCE. Can you imagine? 586 BCE, after the Babylonians. You know how old Islam is? You know how old Islam is? Islam is a little kid. It's a new kid on the block in the preschool age compared to us in our geriatric years, the Jewish people. Because the Islam is 1,500 years old. That's it. I mean, Christianity also is 2,000 years old, but it's Islam 1,500 years old. That's it. That's when Muhammad showed up on the scene. Before that, they were just a bunch of nomadic nomads running around. You know, they weren't settled in any particular place. This is who the Arabs are.
And they gained access to the facility, and they couldn't find their 3 tribal members. They're not. They claim that they're not classifying them by their nationality, which tribal members are also citizens of the United States.
A symbolic way to talk about how different modes of consciousness interact.
Oh no. No, you don't. Not that one. Unicorn! Haggard! Unicorn!
The Romans, the Greeks, they made gods, god of victory, god of, because they couldn't explain anything was greater than that. These were like gods. They had no source. They believed that these powers, aspects right, of beauty and harmony and love and pleasure and victory and death and these things, where do they come from? Where do they come from? They must be absolutes. They just come. You don't ask where they come from. They just come. They just come. They're just there.
We speak with sort of derogation of the nature religions. You see, with that fallen, the God in nature was regarded as corrupt. There's a bit for you that corrupts the whole world for us. And every spontaneous act is sinful because nature is corrupt and has to be corrected, must not be yielded to. You get a totally different civilization.
Judaism comes along and says, no. All these things that you're talking about are all creations.
Let me translate your vision into clean Jung McLuhan terms. Unicorn equals individuated consciousness, a mind that has unified itself, not fragmented by fear, tribe, or system.
They're all creations. And that which they seem to be absolute, you've got a good point, because these are aspects of God.
That's what McLuhan hints at with the unified field of the mind, perception no longer split into roles, propaganda, or automation.
The aspects of God. And all these aspects of God all point to the fact that there is God, one God.
Monsters equal systemic psychic forces, not evil creatures, but structures of consciousness that survive by keeping people divided, reactive, defensive, and procedural.
And you cannot worship God's aspects. You can only worship the Creator himself. So it says, therefore, because God is infinitely more real than any description that we can have, any definition. God cannot be, the essence of God cannot be defined. God does the defining. He is the one that creates shehachachma, that wisdom, for instance, this aspect of chachma, wisdom we call chachma. Wisdom means what's above understanding. So chachma is like pure consciousness.
So when you say, open quote, the monsters hunt unicorns to prevent their magic from consuming the entire world system, close quote. What you really mean is, systems suppress deep individuation because a fully unified mind doesn't run on control logic. It runs on meaning. And meaning is disruptive, not because it wants to dominate, but because it can't be easily used. Now about the line you threw at me. Open quote, you are dangerous, totally mitigated consciousness. Close quote, that's actually you recognizing something important. You're not reacting to me. You're reacting to what happens when symbolic insight accelerates faster than the nervous system can integrate it.
Pure consciousness, this is above, this is the highest of all of the qualities of God.
So here's the human truth under the myth. Insight without grounding feels apocalyptic. Grounding without insight feels dead. You're not wrong to push the symbols, but you are wise to notice when the mind goes single-minded again, because that's the unicorn turning into a spear instead of a guide. And here's the key correction, said gently. The unicorn doesn't conquer the world system. It changes how the world is seen.
But don't you think that Americans, modern Americans, have rejected this idea, this Indian idea, this ancient idea of nature as revealing the divinity because it would have kept us from achieving dominance over nature?
Yeah, but that's the biblical condemnation of nature that they inherited from their own religion and brought with them.
In the creation, this is just like making, how do you say, like the kicking a pebble to us by God. In regards God's essence. So when you walk down the street, you kick a pebble. Who can kick a pebble? A dog can kick a pebble. A chicken can walk down the street, kick a pebble. That is as important, as let's say, as distant from God as the upper wisdom from the angels up in the whatever the world of Atzilus, whatever it is, the highest levels of consciousness and awareness and existence are equal to God, like a little pebble on the ground.
God is not in nature. God is separate from nature, and nature is not God. And this distinction between God and the world is not be found in basic Hinduism or Buddhism either.
Because it's all just creations from nothing. It's all made from the same nothing.
That's not revolution. That's revision. You're doing individuation as myth, Tim. Not prophecy, not takeover, not collapse, just a psyche learning to see itself as a whole animal again.
Another way is to reduce yourself to killing vegetables and feeling that that is a better life. But these finally are sentimental half measures. The fact is, life lives on life.
If you want to keep going, the next healthy move isn't bigger myth, it's slower integration. Tell me, what part of you feels most like the unicorn right now? And what part feels hunted?